3 races remain in the quest for a championship for the Ginetta Junior Championship front runners. 3 races around the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit to decide a championship battle that has ebbed and flowed, I think it's fair to say, since the very start of the season. Isaac Phelps and Chase Fernandez start on the front row for our first race of the weekend. Henry Jocelyn and Charlie Hart are next, ahead of Marcus Sater and Alfie Slater, row 3. 4th row, Ruben Dan and Jude Peters together. Then the top 10 completed by Ethan Jeff Hall and Archie Clark. Jeff Hall, the championship leader, all the way down in 9th on the grid. James Ellis and Torrin Byrne are next on row number 6 together. Row 7 for Felix Livesey and Colin Cronin, whose brother was just out in the Ginetta GT Championship and finished on the podium. Maybe that's a good sign for Colin. Tom Ingram Hill and Ethan Carney are next on row number 8. The 9th row of the grid shared by Harry Moss and Jack Robinson, with Holly Mile bringing up the rear in 19th position. So cars then making their way around behind the safety car, and there appears to be a bit of confusion for some reason. Not really sure what's going on here, but anyway, they do now pull into 2x2 positions, and it looks like we're getting a rolling start, are we? But the Ginetta Junior Championship is not normally a rolling start. There really does seem to be some confusion here. The drivers are normally greeted by some marshals on the grid. The marshals, as you can see, are holding yellow flags out over the pit wall, but they are very slowly now coming into position on the grid with, as I said, Isaac Phelps then on pole position. Now, championship-wide, Ethan Jeff Hall, after dropped scores, is 37 points ahead of his R-Racing teammate Chase Fernandez, and a further 38 points back then is Charlie Hart in 3rd position. He's very much an outside bet at the moment. It's really all about those 2 R-Racing teammates. Well, like I said, not a great qualifying session for Ethan Jeff Hall, who also binned it apparently in testing yesterday at Paddock Hill Bend, so he's not had a great weekend. Chase Fernandez up on the front row of the grid as there's a bit of creeping going on further back. It's been a very messy start to the race, this, but it hasn't even got underway. But now the revs are rising, now the lights go out, and it's not a great getaway initially there from Isaac Phelps, but he will somehow hold on to the lead. Fernandez tries to come down to cover from Henry Jocelyn, but can't do it, so Jocelyn goes 2nd. Charlie Hart slips into 3rd position, and Chase Fernandez's race is not off to a great start. We drop downhill then through the dip of Paddock Hill Bend, climbing up the other side towards Druids. Keep an eye out then for car 25, Ethan Jeff Hall. There he is, look on the outside line. Ruben Dan leans on him slightly, and Ethan Jeff Hall just needs to stay out of trouble if he can. Cannot afford to go off the road. That would really hurt his championship chances. He's nipping up the inside there of Jude Peters, that was, so that puts him in 8th position. So 1 place gained already for Jeff Hall as Charlie Hart launches to the inside of Henry Jocelyn for 2nd place. That is an ambitious move. I don't think it's quite going to work on the way into the corner. They're side by side on the apex, and all of this happening right in front of Chase Fernandez, who has nowhere to go but needs to go somewhere because he needs to try and get himself back into 2nd place if he can. He will slipstream up behind Henry Jocelyn, and unfortunately Charlie Hart is on the outside looking in there, just got hung out to dry down the hill, and so it is going to be 3 places lost, I think, for Charlie as they turn through Hawthorne for the first time. So it is Phelps the leader, Jocelyn 2nd, Fernandez 3rd, Charlie Hart coming back there at Marcus Sater for 4th position. Good to have Marcus back towards the pointy end of the grid. Hasn't had the best of runs recently. Pretty quick again here at Brands Hatch. Ethan Jeff Hall then, 37 points sounds like a lot. It is a good amount of points. It's the maximum amount of points actually that you can score from a race. If you win the race, having qualified on pole and set the fastest lap, you score 37 points. Well, Chase Fernandez didn't start from pole position. Obviously, we don't know whether he's going to get the fastest lap yet, and he's down in 3rd position at the moment. Jude Peters there gets shuffled out of line, so that's another place gained by Jeff Hall. And Ruben Dam tried to go through as well, but wasn't quite able to make the move stick. Phelps leads them from Jocelyn's 2nd position, 8/10 the gap. Ruben Dan here trying to find a way around Jude Peters, goes to the outside line, so 2 behind does Livesey, who ends up almost elbowed out wide by Archie Clark. They lean on each other slightly going up the hill, and Felix Livesey then trying his best to stand his ground on the outside line at Druids Corner. That's a long way round, and Archie Clark was always going to close the door if he could, which he could, and so he holds on to the position heading down the hill. Down the Cooper Straight then. Phelps trying to get away. Jocelyn will just about still be within slipstreaming range though, I think, because as they head out into the countryside, that is where that slipstream really starts to take effect. And we may see that gap start to creep down again. Forward with Jeff Hall this is, so that is, Charlie Hart, excuse me, we're on board with. Marcus Sater ahead of us, behind us, Alfie Slater. Alfie Slater having another good run here. So the R-Racing cars, they have strength in numbers, don't they, at the front, but two of them are fighting for a championship. And we saw that get a little bit spicy at Donington Park last time out when Ethan and Chase tangled whilst battling for the lead in race one. That really ruined Fernandez's weekend, though, honestly. It was a non-finish for Chase in that race. And we said at the time he couldn't really afford a non-finish because his drop score situation was a bit precarious already. And he now, therefore, arrives here at Brands Hatch, that little bit further back from Ethan Jeff Hall. Ethan, in fairness, you could say that Chase Fernandez lost a good chance for the championship in that first race. Well, Ethan Jeff Hall certainly put in a champion's drive in race two, coming from deep in the field to finish on the podium. It was a stunning drive from Ethan. He was able to outscore Chase again in that race. And a solid third race meant that he is the one who arrives here with a decent lead in the points. But Chase Fernandez in third position wants to do something about that, and he is doing something about that because he's just scored himself, provisionally anyway, another point. He sets the fastest lap of the race. Further back, Ruben Dan there battling with Archie Clark. As they head up the hill towards Druids Corner. Again, Jude Peters at the front of this group looking a little bit like a cork in the bottle. As it stands then, 27 points, we believe, would be the difference between Ethan Jeff Hall and Chase Fernandez. But of course, Chase could well be able to pick up a few more positions before the race is done. They're definitely closing back in on the leader, aren't they? And Ethan Jeff Hall, sort of in no man's land. He's got away from this battle going on behind. Jude Peters continuing to defend the inside line there, keeping Ruben Dan and Archie Clark, the two Elite Motorsport teammates, at bay. But it's not proving easy for Ethan Jeff Hall to close in on the lead group. Now, if they really start battling, that could change. But right now, he doesn't look likely to score too many more points. Chase Fernandez, though, in fairness, has dropped away slightly from the lead too as well, although the slipstream will bunch them together, as Isaac Phelps makes a little bit of a mistake there. Two wheels on the dirt coming out of the right-hander at Hawthorne was not ideal. Towards Sheen Curve they go. Up towards the left-hander at Sterling's a big moment there for Jocelyn, working away at the wheel. They turn their way now down towards the right-hander at Clearways Corner. That lead gap is a couple of cars' lengths, really. But as is often the way in Ginetta Junior racing, it's the latter half of the race where most of the action happens. There you can see the live championship standings then. Ethan Jeff Hall 5.71, Chase Fernandez 5.45. That would be 26 points the difference, because Fernandez has once again now gone and set the fastest lap of the race, so he gets that bonus point. And Charlie Hart now on a flat 500 would, I think, be too far back now mathematically to do anything about the championship. Up the hill we go. Defensive line being taken by Isaac Phelps. Jocelyn to the outside. That almost opened the door for Chase Fernandez, who we ride on board with now in third, to make the move, but it didn't quite pan out that way. They head down the hill again. The leading two go in tight. This will give Fernandez a run mid-corner, but there's nowhere to go. Henry Jocelyn's car is parked in the way. He's gesticulating madly at his teammate Marcus Sater behind, saying, push me, go with me. If he can get some assistance from his teammate, that might well allow him to make the move. He goes to the inside at Surtees. That was absolutely nip and tuck, and now he wants Sater to go with him, which he does. Marcus will give him the bumper. Look, you can still see Chase Fernandez waving at his teammate, and that is exactly what he wanted. He gets the push. The bump draft down the hill from Marcus Sater. Still they are working together. Look at that lock together, and Chase Fernandez is in second place. Yes, just finds a gap, gets across in front of Henry Jocelyn. Charlie Hart now up the inside of Marcus Sater. Sater really sort of sacrificed himself there to help his teammate. And actually now has another of his teammates up the inside there. That's the 27 of Alfie Slater, but that was brilliant stuff, that, from Fernandez. He made the move, went to the inside. Now, I made the point before that if you lunge to the inside at Surtees, you're normally quite slow on the exit, but the assistance from his teammate negated that and allowed him to make the move stick. The trouble is, if he's now going to make the move on Isaac Phelps, he's not going to have the assistance of his teammate anymore, because there are two cars between them. Fernandez will have to go it alone. Up towards Clearways they go. When they cross the line at the end of this lap, points will update, and we'll be able to see exactly what that all meant for the championship, but it might change again, because actually Fernandez has a run. He's in the slipstream as they head across the line and might think about a move here into Paddock Hill Bend. He dummies to the outside line. Does he jink to the inside? The answer is no, but Isaac Phelps is really now having to drive a defensive race. He was already being reeled in by Henry Jocelyn, and now Chase Fernandez trying to make friends with anyone that he can. Look to the outside. I'm not convinced Henry Jocelyn's going to work with you, Chase. Henry has no reason to work with Chase Fernandez. They don't run for the same team, and Chase might like to hope that Henry will go with him. but I don't think that's going to be the case. Right, do we see a repeat of that move then as they head down into Surtees' corner? There's the confirmation of the points. 22 it would be between them now. Chase Fernandez does not opt for the move into Surtees, and Marcus Sater actually losing out now to Alfie Slater. So the other two are racing cars in this lead group swapping positions. Now, what will they do if and when Ethan Jeff Hall comes knocking? Because Ethan is now starting to catch this lead group. Will they pull out of his way? Or are they only going to help Chase Fernandez, who is looking to the outside of Isaac Phelps again? Didn't quite have the run that time, though, so the positions will stay as they are. Really see from the onboard how much work the driver has to put into that steering wheel. And the car moving around all the time. It's a bumpy circuit, Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and it can be difficult sometimes to keep the car in a straight line. But Chase Fernandez driving well, had a bit of a moment there at Westfield though, drops back into the clutches of Henry Joslin. But they'll all be back together again, I'm sure, by the end of the lap. Chase Fernandez is driving like a driver who knows he's got nothing to lose. He needs good results this weekend. He's got an opportunity with that man there, Ethan Jeff Hall, being stuck down in 7th. If he could win this race, that could make a big, big, big difference for the championship. Through clearways, this to complete lap number 5. 10.5 was the margin. It could be even less than that at the end of the lap. Is Fernandez this time going to think about the move into paddock? He's got to be careful, because if he goes for a move that doesn't work, Joslin and Charlie Hart are there to pick up the pieces. And as a result, maybe he doesn't go for it. Charlie does, though, late on the brakes up the inside line. This will take the pressure off Fernandez temporarily, with Joslin and Hart side by side, and Joslin's in the dirt coming out of the right-hander. So Charlie Hart will be to 3rd position. Now, Charlie might not have yet relinquished any chance of the championship. In his mind, he's probably driving with even less to lose than Chase Fernandez. There's more waving going on as they turn down into Graham Hill Bend. Charlie Hart retaining that 3rd position. There you can see Ethan Jeff Hall in the background, getting a little bit closer to this lot now. I am intrigued to see what his teammates will do when he arrives. I think he will catch them before the end of the race, as Chase Fernandez there takes that wide line into Surtees, latches onto the tail of Isaac Phelps, but actually did that a bit too well, really. Now who's he waving at? Is he waving at Isaac Phelps? I don't think Isaac's going to work with him. But yeah, look at that. So actually, Chase Fernandez, I don't believe Chase Fernandez is trying to overtake Isaac Phelps, because he had a run, he had the slipstream, he had the opportunity to pull out and get alongside Phelps. I think Fernandez is playing this very carefully. He knows that if these two start battling for the lead, that will ultimately benefit Ethan Jeff Hall, because if this lead group starts tripping over itself, then Ethan will catch up, and that gives Ethan then an opportunity to score more points. I think Fernandez is going to wait until the very last lap. No, he's not. He's up the inside into Sterling's, never mind. And Isaac Phelps has to leave the door open. He's sideways, so is Fernandez, though. Gathers it together, but he's off the road. Fernandez is off the road, heading for the barriers. Bits of bodywork go flying, and an error for Chase Fernandez, just as I was saying that he was playing this really cleverly. He throws it all away with a moment at Sterling's corner. Phelps had a slide. It was an even bigger one for Fernandez. You were riding on board with him at the time, and the car just spat itself off the road. He's not out, but he's at the back of the queue, and crucially back behind Ethan Jeff Hall, as suddenly Charlie Hart emerges as a challenger for the win. He's up the inside of Phelps, knocks into the side of him. He's sideways, he's in the gravel now. Charlie Hart briefly in the lead, and he will also go to the back of the group. That's Slater up the inside into Druid's corner, halfway through the race, and it's all kicking off. It is still Isaac Phelps the leader, but Alfie Slater, who was 6th at one point, is now battling for 2nd with Henry Joslin. Joslin's got the inside line into Graham Hill Bend. Charlie Hart, I think, running a very real risk here of picking up a black and orange mechanical warning flag for that rear diffuser that's dragging on the ground. But this is proper Ginetta Junior racing now, isn't it? With a championship on the line. And remember, we've got our 2 championship contenders now pretty close together. Charlie Hart separating them. That's actually the top 3 in the championship, all together at the back of this group. On board there with Charlie Hart. Ethan Jeff Hall then suddenly finds himself ahead of his championship rival. That means it would be 38 points the difference between them as it stands, but that is very likely to change again a few times before the end of the race, I reckon. Joslin there fending off Alfie Slater for now, as Charlie Hart's rear bodywork stubbornly refuses to fall off completely. That will be a bit of a distraction for Fernandez, you would imagine, who is keen to get on with this and get back up the inside, which I think he has. Yes, he has. So Chase Fernandez trying to regain a position up into Sheen Curve. He goes through pretty easily in the end. So Chase Fernandez picks up another place. Those live standings are already out of date. It's going to keep changing by the corner here, potentially, let alone by the lap. Fernandez goes through the corner where it all unravelled a lap ago. Charlie Hart, I think, acknowledging there that he's going to work with Chase Fernandez for now. It's in both of their interests to go after Ethan Jeff Hall, of course, who is defending ahead of them. Now, remember Donington Park. These two came together, Fernandez and Ethan Jeff Hall. They were battling for the lead at the time, but in such close quarters, there's every chance that this could start to get a bit physical again. Across the line we go. 2/3 race distance is reached, and Chase Fernandez wants the inside line. Ethan Jeff Hall, having none of it though, covers the inside into Paddock Hill Bend, and he'll try and box Chase Fernandez out wide, prevent the switchback from being done. Chase will look to the inside, but actually Ethan Jeff Hall already had that one covered. Up the hill they go. Fernandez doesn't want to go to the outside because that's where Charlie Hart is. Still that rear bodywork hanging loose on the number 50 car, and still he can't find a way back ahead of either of his championship rivals. Down the hill through Graham Hill Bend. All of this, of course, is allowing the top two to break away now. Isaac Phelps and Henry Jocelyn look, and then it's just the R Racing cars with Charlie Hart set to debate third position. But now you've got a situation where the two R Racing cars who aren't in championship contention are ahead of the two that are. Off goes Ethan Jeff Hall, though. Jeff Hall makes a mistake at Surtees and hands the positions back to Chase Fernandez and Charlie Hart in the end without a fight. That was a rare mistake from Ethan Jeff Hall, who just hasn't looked as steady this weekend as he has for most of the rest of the season. That off in testing yesterday may have dented his confidence, but a poor qualifying effort. And now another mistake in the race that could prove really costly. Charlie Hart, you won't be shocked to hear, is being summoned into the pit lane to get that rear bodywork sorted. I think some of it has detached actually, but there's still enough of it hanging loose that he's been called in to get it repaired. There he goes, and I don't think it has fallen off. And now Chase Fernandez on the grass again. They are really driving on the edge here. So Charlie Hart will have to pit. That, of course, will promote Ethan Jeff Hall again. So Ethan Jeff Hall will pick up one more place, and after that would only be one position behind Fernandez. But Chase looks more likely to regain places here than Ethan, you would have to say. Again, though, it's their teammates ahead. What will they do? How will they race Chase Fernandez? If Chase goes through, will they also then allow Ethan Jeff Hall through? Have to wait and see. 5 and a bit minutes to go. Chase Fernandez, who still holds that bonus point for the fastest lap as well, remember, is going after the group in front. There goes Ethan Jeff Hall ahead of Charlie Hart. He was going to get ahead of him anyway, I suppose, when Charlie pitted, but better to do it now before those 3 R Racing cars ahead get any further away. Because just on that lap alone, Ethan Jeff Hall dropped about 4 or 5 tenths to the cars ahead, and needs to try and go after them if he can. Right then. Down towards Surtees we go. We're back to a 32-point difference now between the two of them, so it's still coming down compared to where it was pre-race, 37. But Chase Fernandez will now surely try and make short work of his two teammates. Over the crest of the hill we go. This will be interesting. This is where he'll have the slipstream. Does Marcus Sater move out of the way? At the moment, the answer is no. Alfie Slater actually actively defending from Sater, look into the corner, and then they all merge back onto the racing line turning in. So Chase Fernandez is probably going to have to work with this. I think Sater was willing to work with Chase before, but probably not that willing to just pull aside and stick the indicator on. In the end, Fernandez makes his own gap, gets to the inside through Westfield Corner. That will be the inside through Dingledell and Sheen, and that should be position gain for Chase Fernandez. Yes, it is. So Fernandez up another. Doesn't want to spend too long battling with his teammates, though, because, look, Ethan Jeff Hall is catching up. There's more waving going on as number 25 now being warned about track limits. Well, that's Ethan Jeff Hall. Can't afford to pick up a penalty here, Ethan. That will be very costly indeed. Chase's left arm is going to be rather worn out at the end of this race, not only from hanging onto the car, but all the waving that he's doing. But look at this, what is Alfie Slater doing? He's defended so much now that Ethan Jeff Hall has caught up to the lot of them. They're 3 abreast, and Ethan Jeff Hall might have a chance to get back ahead of Fernandez here. To the line they will go, into Paddock Hill Bend. Ethan Jeff Hall on the inside, Fernandez on the outside, and is Ethan Jeff Hall about to go back ahead of his championship rival? The answer, undoubtedly, is yes, and that all came from that defensive move made by Slater into clearways. It backed them all up and played beautifully into the hands of the championship leader. So another twist in the story. Fernandez, you can see, is getting frustrated now, knocking into the back of Ethan Jeff Hall's car. Again, waving down the hill. He's done most of this race one-handed. It's impressive that he's even contending for this position, quite frankly. He is all over Ethan Jeff Hall as they head towards Surtees. Ethan has absolutely no plan of giving Chase Fernandez the inside line, so Chase swings out wide. Now, remember, he and Marcus Sater worked together previously down this very same section of racetrack, but that was not when Chase was battling with Ethan Jeff Hall. Let's see what happens this time then. He's almost pushing Ethan down the hill. In fact, they might be making contact. I think they are. It is still, by the way, Phelps and Jocelyn at the front of the field. Jeff Hall defends into Hawthorn, the top two in the championship, absolutely together. And Fernandez has the better exit. Has he got the inside line? Jeff Hall comes across to cover. They almost make contact. Fernandez again to the outside, but that opens the door for Sater. Sater goes through as well. And all of a sudden, Fernandez's race is unravelling, really. There's now a sort of resignation to the hand-waving, isn't there? What on earth's going on? How did this get away from me? But it's not over yet. 2 minutes to go, 2 laps therefore remaining. And the rate at which this lot are trading positions, this could all change again before the flag. Fernandez gets the good run out of Sterling's, but that's the outside into Clearways. Doesn't want to be there. He's pointing at Marcus Sater, who is defending. I mean, Marcus is perfectly entitled to do this. We don't know what conversations were had in the R-Racing awning, of course, pre-race, but if these two had agreed to work together, that agreement seems to have come to an end now. Marcus Sater hugging the inside line. Chase Fernandez keeps on pointing his finger at him. He's going to have to make the move, surely, here at Paddock Hill Bend, but Sater holds the inside, and all the while, Ethan Jeff Hall is getting away. And now they've been caught by Archie Clark as well. So Archie Clark with a chance to get into this as well. Again, Sater covers the inside line. How long do you think before Fernandez erupts here and starts getting a bit physical with his teammate? This is championship-defining stuff. As it stands, he would be 40 points behind Ethan Jeff Hall. That is more than a race win's worth of points with 2 races still to go. And again, Sater defending. Chase Fernandez and Marcus Sater, I think, are going to have some interesting conversations after this race. Chase clearly feels that Marcus should be letting him through, or at the very least not defending quite so robustly. A wave there from Sater, but I don't think you're both singing from the same hymn sheet, are you guys? Because clearly Sater is saying, work with me. Fernandez is saying, get out of the way. Let me go after my teammate and championship rival. Into Hawthorn, tighter line from Fernandez. Now, is this the chance to get to the inside into Westfield? We have half a lap of racing still to go, and I think Chase Fernandez has maybe resigned himself to the fact now that he's certainly not going to be able to go and challenge Ethan Jeff Hall. He just needs to try and limit the damage, get past Marcus Sater, maybe into the final corner. Let's see what happens. Up through Sheen Curve towards Sterling's. Is the move going to come into the left-hander? Sater's on the grass. He's defending the inside line again. So Fernandez will look for the switchback, look for the momentum down the straight, and into the final corner. The checkered flag awaits for either Isaac Phelps or Henry Jocelyn. That's been a brilliant battle. We haven't really been able to see. Here they come. It is Phelps. Phelps in front, Jocelyn behind. So Phelps gets the win. Jocelyn finishes in second position. Now, deep breath, everyone. What's going to happen further back? It is going to be third for Slater, fourth Jeff Hall, and fifth for Marcus Sater. So Marcus Sater did not move aside for Chase Fernandez. Chase wasn't able to find a way through, and that means provisionally it will be 40 points between the two of them as we go into the final day of racing tomorrow. Well, that is going to be a major talking point between Chase Fernandez and Marcus Sater. They worked together so effectively early in the race. It really looked like they had some sort of alliance, maybe. But in the latter part of the race, Sater was having none of it. And as I say, I'm not saying he should have moved out of the way. He is perfectly entitled to defend his position. But Chase Fernandez, understandably, I guess, will feel otherwise. Especially because by that point, Ethan Jeff Hall had already gone through. So Ethan Jeff Hall picks up, in the end, 4th position. I think if he had have offered him 4th position halfway through that race, he would have very, very gladly accepted it. So especially if you'd have told him that Chase Fernandez was going to end up in 6th. So the championship margin goes out now between the two of them. And Chase Fernandez is now waiting on a miracle, I think, on Sunday. Phelps the winner and Jocelyn second. That's sort of the forgotten storyline of that race, but the Elite Motorsport team do at least get to celebrate a win. That's about all they celebrated in that one, really. Jocelyn second, Slater third, Ethan Jeff Hall fourth, and Marcus Sater in 5th position ahead of Fernandez 6th. So crucially, Jeff Hall outscores Fernandez and extends his championship margin. Archie Clark was 7th ahead of Jude Peters and Ruben Dan, with Felix Livesey in 10th position. James Ellis 11th, Colin Cronin 12th, with Torrin Byrne, Tom Ingram Hill and Harry Moss completing the top 15. Ethan Carney 16th, Jack Robinson 17th, and Charlie Hart, after a pit stop for damage, ended up 18th ahead of Holly Mile. And breathe, everyone. That was a dramatic race. Let's take a look at the race winner pulling into the end of pit lane. And Elite Motorsport celebrate the win. R-Racing, though, I think is where the more interesting conversations are going to be had after the race. There is an R-Racing car on the podium, that being Alfie Slater. Good result there for Alfie. He'll be very, very pleased with that. Out gets Isaac Phelps. Yeah, it is a W for Isaac Phelps. And another race win. Well, the championship sort of slipped away from him midway through the season, you'd have to say. He won 3 races this year, and that will be another one to add to the tally. But just a little bit of mid-season inconsistency for Isaac, really. And a couple of missed opportunities. Had a race at Silverstone that got away from him with a spin. Let's take a look, though, at the highlights from a frenetic opening race of the weekend in the Ginetta Junior Championship. Isaac Phelps started from pole position. Chase Fernandez started alongside, but didn't get a great run into the first corner and was immediately dumped down into 4th place. That was, though, still several places ahead of his big championship rival, Ethan Jeff Hall, who had a poor qualifying effort and had to dig his way up the order from 9th on the grid and could see his championship lead was dwindling. Fernandez was making some real cut and thrust moves, and at this point had the assistance of his teammate Marcus Sater as well, who pushed him past Henry Jocelyn down the back straight and up into 2nd position. That separated the pair, and Chase Fernandez had to go in alone from that point onwards. Had a go at Isaac Phelps, and then a defining moment, a snap of oversteer coming out of Sterling's corner, put him through the gravel, damaged the back of the car. He was able to carry on, and then Charlie Hart had a pop at Isaac Phelps for the lead, briefly went through, but I braked himself at Paddock Hill Bend and skated through the gravel. He would have to pit for repairs as a result. All of this put Fernandez and Ethan Jeff Hall back together on the track, battling with their R-Racing teammates Alfie Slater and Marcus Sater. Ethan Jeff Hall got past Sater in the final third of the race, but Chase Fernandez could not find a way by his teammate, who was desperately defending the position. At the front, Isaac Phelps held on to the win. Henry Jocelyn came home in 2nd position, but Ethan Jeff Hall beat Chase Fernandez and extends his championship margin overnight. So what is that championship margin going to be? Well, there we see it provisionally. We always have to use that word. It is 577 for Ethan Jeff Hall. It's 537 for Chase Fernandez. Now, the mathematicians among you will be able to tell me that that is a 40-point deficit for Chase Fernandez. As I said, you score 35 points for a win. There are bonus points for things like fastest laps, but that is a tall order now for Chase Fernandez. It will go down to the final day of racing, but he will have it all to do if he's going to have any chance of beating Ethan Jeff Hall to the championship. So a dramatic opening day here at Brands Hatch. Be sure to tune in again tomorrow, though, for the championship decider.